Well, I have some bad news. I know all of you have been applauding the job that Christie Noem has been doing as the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Well, I just discovered this morning, this is Sunday, that there is no such thing as Christie Noem. What all of us have been thinking was this, gifted head of the Department of Homeland Security, who has inspired all of us to go out and shoot our puppies, is actually a creation of artificial intelligence, not a person at all. Now, how do I know this? I'm taking it into my confidence, so come closer. I'm listening to her defend the fact that this jerk who killed one, and probably the other one's going to die as well, National Guard people who were doing nothing wrong to anybody, they're shot by this guy. This guy was supposedly vetted by the Trump administration in April when he was granted a visa. Not a visa, I'm sorry, he was granted asylum after an interview and whatever background checks they were doing, and allowed to continue in this country. And then, according to everything you hear in the news, he became radicalized, not while he was in Afghanistan, working side by side with our troops over there, doing God knows what, but he was an active duty fighter on behalf of the United States. And he gets over here, and he becomes radicalized, and then he goes off like a moron and shoots these people. What contributed to that? Well, we can get into that in a minute, but I suspect we're going to find out. There's like so many people who go off the rails, he couldn't get a job. He had a wife and 5 kids, and he couldn't get a job. So the American dream he was promised was stick with the Americans, work side by side with us. When we pull out, we'll take you with us, which they did, and your family, which they did. And you'll have a whole wonderful life in America. And he gets over here and he can't get a job to save his life. So sometimes when people are in that situation, particularly if they're a little bit, he was obviously with experience killing people, that he would go off the rails. I don't know exactly if that's what happened. That's what I'm hearing. But as a skeptic in residence, I don't believe anything is a fact until I actually see the facts. But that's what I'm hearing, and that makes sense because we've seen that happen so many times with these people going out and just randomly shooting strangers. So, but he was vetted. Yeah, went a series of vettings when these people were removed from Afghanistan in these planes, and you saw the whole thing that was reminiscent of Vietnam all over again. They were not flown directly here. They went to other countries where they were interviewed and vetted, and then I think were vetted again when they came back to the United States. And then when he's applying for asylum, he gets vetted again. The last time, it was with the Trump administration. See, she was asked about this repeatedly on a number of talk shows. I watch them all. I have no life on Sunday. And even Francois likes to watch them with me. He doesn't have any idea what's going on. He's a dog. But he likes the idea of sitting next to me and watching these shows. So she's out there, and every one of them, she said the same thing over and over and over again, which is what you'd expect from artificial intelligence. And the things she was saying over and over and over again were internally contradictory, which is a nice euphemistic way of saying what I'm not going to say, because I don't want people saying, oh, you're just name calling. I'm not name calling. But if I were, the name would be applicable. So what she says is, look at, she would ask, well, but doesn't the administration have the administration? I am so proud and happy with Donald Trump because he has finally set down new criteria for reevaluating all of these people who came over from Afghanistan, and incidentally every other country out there that's a third world country. And I'm going to shut down all this asylum until we go back and re-interview and we're going to. These are going to have these criteria. I think, as I understand, the main criteria is they have to come from a country where the government is going to be working with us to provide us with the information that we need about their backgrounds. Well, number one, there's no indication that any government had any idea that this guy was going to go nuts after he got here. But the second thing, so many of these refugees that are fleeing by the tens of thousands are fleeing countries that have no working relationship with us, They're run by dictators. They're totally third world countries, and if your criteria is we have to be able to work with the head of your government that you're fleeing, you finish the logic on that one. So what she said was, when this fellow was, this is on every talk show, when this fellow was interviewed for his visa application, the government was relying on information that had been obtained by the Biden administration, and that information turned out to be defective. Well, number one, there's no indication that it was defective, because she said, and nobody's disputing this, he became radicalized after he was here, after he had been interviewed, after he had been vetted, is when he turned into what he was. So the idea that the Biden administration got incorrect information about him, there's zero evidence of that, and the Biden administration had a lot of evidence on him because he was working side by side with the CIA in Afghanistan supporting American troops over there. So he was vetted before they ever allowed him into that kind of a situation, and he passed everything with flying colors as far as we know. So, but the second thing is, the guy, she says, well, thank God for Donald Trump. You can almost hear the marching music in the background, because he's now come in with these new criteria to prevent this from ever happening again, because we had to rely on the Biden administration. Why did you have to rely on the Biden administration information up till today? How come all of a sudden the president has come forward and he is really doing the job? Why didn't he do that when he came into office? Why didn't he immediately issue a decree like the one he immediately issued after this happened, and say nobody's coming in unless I have the opportunity to obtain vetting information from the country they're fleeing? Why didn't he do that? There's no answer to that. So every time she was asked that question, she came back to, and the Biden administration was responsible for this whole thing. This whole thing is Joe Biden's fault. Because obviously the talking point that these people, and you'll see it from every cabinet member now that they're going to be asked about this, the talking point is going to be, it was Joe Biden's fault, it was Joe Biden's fault, it was Joe Biden's fault. We bear no responsibility. We're just trying to solve a problem created by the Biden administration. It doesn't pass the straight face test. It doesn't pass logic. But you can't blame her, because there's no one really there to blame. It's blaming artificial intelligence. I don't have any more to say about it. I hope you have a nice day in spite of me. Thanks. Bye.